Dear learners, I welcome you all to this video lecture. I am Dr. Kanchi Bajpai, an assistant professor, guest faculty in the Department of English, Pandit Sundarlal Sharma, Open University, Chhattisgarh, Bilaspur. Today, we will be learning the explanation of the poem The Lotus by Toru Dutt. But before proceeding further in this topic, let's have a recap of the topic that we have already learned about Toru Dutt. In my previous video, I have already talked about her life from 1856 to 1877. She died very early at the age of only 21 years. It was an unfortunate event in the history of Indian English literature. A woman was ready to take the world on her own. Her personality: outwardly, Toru Dutt appears to be a fragile girl, petite, not tall and well built, yet exuding an exotic charm of her own. Her concerns for the frequent pains and fevers often get reflected in her letters. Toru Dutt and Indian English poetry. Toru Dutt appeared on the literary scene when the first generation educated Indians had begun forming a substantial body of writing that Western reviewers found interesting. Her publishing career: she had published number of works during her career, and those are as follows: Savitri, Lakshman, Jogdaya Uma, The Legend of Dhruva, Bhutto, Sindhu, Prahlad, Sita. Now, let's begin with today's topic, and that is the line to line explanation of the Lotus poem by Toru Dutt. Written in standard 14 line sonnet form, the poem represents a scene of her house garden, bathed magically in full moonlight, which transforms everything into hypnotizing beauty. Words selected carefully for their effect spin a web of enchantment that wrap around us. As we read it, another celebrated poem exuding plenty of lyrical energy, The Lotus is unique in incorporating in its vigorous arguments in a bid to settle a long-standing issue between two flowers. The Lotus by Toru Dutt is a 14-line Petrarchan sonnet that resolves a dispute between the rose and lily. Love asks Flora for a queenly flower. She creates the lotus, combining the rose's red and lily's white. Deemed the ultimate flower, it celebrates Indian culture featuring mythology like Cupid and Psyche's bar. The poem The Lotus is from Dutt's Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, published in the year 1882. The poem enacts a type of fable in which the personified figure of love comes to Flora, the Roman goddess of flowering plants, asking her to create the most beautiful flower in the world. After the long-standing feud between the lily and the rose is described, love expresses a desire to have a flower that carries elements of both. Give me a flower delicious as the rose and stately as the lily in her pride. When asked what color the flower should be, love first says rose red, then qualifies this by saying no, lily white, or both provide. The poem ends with Flora gifting love the lotus, a flower that has both elements of the lily's beauty and the rose's beauty. The poem as such reflects one instance of Toru Dutt drawing a link between European culture and knowledge and Indian Asian culture. The poem starts with the direct statement that love approached Flora, the sovereign of the kingdom of flowers and vegetation, and asked for a flower that would be the unanimously acceptable queen. For this honor, rose and lily have for a long time been claimants. In this lines, love, the god of love, Cupid, approaches Flora, the goddess of flowers, with a special request. He wants a flower that can be the undisputed queen among all flowers. For a long time, the lily and the rose have been competitors for this title, with no clear winner. Poets, bards have talked and written about the beauty of both the rose and the lily. Some argue that the rose can never match the grandeur and dignity of the lily, which resembles the goddess Uno. Others questions whether the lily is truly more beautiful. This debate continues among flower lovers, even in Psyche's garden, which represents the mind and the soul. They have evoked praise and admiration of the singers, composers of verses, and others. So, if there could be any flower consenting with valid reasons for it, it had to be these two flowers. Suddenly, the world of flowers got divided into two debating factions, and the air rang out with a fierce discussion. One of them asserted that lily is the most stately, majestic flower, towering over the rose with its executive long upright shape. It has a temper of Jupiter's wife. The quarrel rests in the Psyche's bar. Love asked Flora for a flower that is as delightful as the rose and as majestic as the lily. Flora asked him to specify the color, and at first Love chooses rose red, symbolizing passion and love. The rival faction claimed that lily cannot be considered more beautiful than rose. Love, who had approached Flora with a request, said once again that he wanted a flower which would have the sensuous beauty of a rose and the dignified carriage of personality of a lily. In her true pride, it was sort of compromise between the two, an acceptance of the enchanting beauty of one flower and the imposing mane of the other. What is to be the color of this new compromise flower? Was the question next asked. The dilemma was not easy to resolve. Love said first rose red, then changing its mind said lily white, and then again changing its mind opted for both. And that is a flower that would have the characteristics of both rose and lily. Flora then created lotus with a little of the sensuous beauty of rose and the majestic appearance of the lily. This became the queenliest flower that blows, which since then has been enthroned as the most beautiful and pleasant looking blossom. Love changes his mind and asks for a flower that is both rose red and the lily white. In response, Flora creates a lotus which combines the best qualities of both flowers. The lotus, with its dual colors and unmatched beauty, becomes the kindliest flower of all. Toru Dutt's imaginative power displays its extraordinary reach in the two most widely read sonnets we have seen, inspired perhaps by the Greek mythological story, since she uses names like Flora and Psyche. She has created a beautiful short dramatic composition full of exciting dialogues and narrative force. Toru Dutt, Eve, conscious about the moral issues of the life, sees through the contrastive qualities of the two flowers, rose on the one hand and lily on the other hand, a means of resolving the conflict in a judicious combination of the two. Let's have a quick recap what we have learned previously. We have already dealt with the explanation of the Lotus poem by Toru Dutt, and that is the Lotus by Toru Dutt is a Petrarchan sonnet that allegorically resolves a competition for the title of the queenliest flower between the rose and the lily. Love, acting as the protagonist, asks Flora for a flower that combines the distinct, unmatched beauty of both. The rose represents passion and vibrant color, while the lily stands for stately, pure white dignity. Flora resolves this rivalry by creating the lotus, a flower that merges the best of both, the deep red of the rose and the pale white of the lily. Through this, the poem celebrates the lotus as a symbol of perfection, unity and spiritual significance, while asserting the superiority of Indian Eastern culture over Western ideally. The first theme that we are going to deal today is perfection and harmony. Toru Dutt's The Lotus presents the flower as the ultimate symbol of perfection and harmony, bridging Eastern and Western beauty ideals. Through a mythic dialogue, love seeks a queenly flower, pitting the passionate crimson rose against the pure white stately lily. Flora resolves this conflict by creating the lotus, which fuses the rose red and lily white to create a supreme harmonious bloom. But by combining passion with purity and the stately mane of the lily with the color of the rose, the lotus transcends competition. It represents a perfect synthesis of culture and spiritual serenity, blooming in muddy waters, yet remaining pure. The second theme that we are going to deal today is love and beauty. Toru Dutt's The Lotus is a patriarchal sonnet that masterfully blends themes of love and beauty by resolving a mythological dispute, elevating the Indian lotus as the ultimate unrivaled flower. The poem personifies love as Cupid, or the god of love, seeking the queenliest flower from Flora, the goddess of flowers. Beauty is portrayed through a competition between the lily and the rose, representing a fusion of Western and Eastern aesthetics. The stately lily of the north and the delicious red rose of the east. The love or desire for perfection is met when Flora creates the lotus, which combines the best of both, the stately white of the lily and the rich red of the rose. The poem highlights that true divine beauty lies in the balance, harmony, and resilience, as the lotus thrives in mud while remaining pure. By crowning the lotus as the queenliest flower that blows, Dutt emphasizes a cultural pride, elevating an Indian symbol of purity, divinity, and enlightenment above Western ideals of beauty. Ultimately, the poem celebrates the triumph of a synthetic beauty, a blend of passion and purity. The third theme is purity and resilience. In the lotus, Toru Dutt presents the lotus flower as the ultimate undisputed queen of flowers, embodying both profound purity and remarkable resilience. These themes are established through the poem's central conflict, where the rose and lily, representing passion and respectively, vie for supremacy, only to be suppressed by the lotus, which combines the best of both. Resilience is depicted through the lotus' ability to thrive in muddy waters. Despite emerging from murky, challenging environments, the lotus maintains its grace, rising above adversity, which symbolizes the power to overcome life's obstacles and the triumph of inner strength. It is not merely passive but actively rise from the dark to display its beauty. Purity is highlighted by the lotus' ability to remain untouched by water. Even while submerged in it, it acts as a symbol of spiritual awakening, untouched by worldly impurities. By merging the rose's deep red color and the lily's pale majesty, the lotus represents a harmonious blend of passion and innocence. The flower acts as a testament to perfection and spiritual growth, representing a sacred, unblemished nature that thrives despite and because of its challenging circumstances. Next theme is cultural fusion and nationalism. Toru Dutt's sonnet, The Lotus, is a masterful blending of Western poetic from with Eastern cultural pride, symbolizing a harmonious fusion and quiet nationalism. As an Indo-Anglican poet educated in Europe, Dutt uses the patriarchal sonnet structure, a Western form, to narrate a mythic tale that asserts the superiority of an Indian symbol. Cultural fusion. Dutt merges Eastern and Western traditions by combining the stately white lily, representing Western purity and dignity, and the delicious red rose, representing Western passion and beauty. She tasks the goddess Flora with creating a flower that combines both. The resulting lotus, dyed rose red and lily white, represents a perfect synthesis of these contrasting cultural ideals, transcending the rivalry between them. Nationalism and cultural identity. The flower functions as an expression of cultural identity in the poem by crowning the lotus, a significant symbol in Indian tradition and spirituality, as the undisputed queen of flowers. By placing the lotus alongside traditional Western symbols like the rose and the lily, that highlights the richness of her Indian heritage. The lotus, which blooms beautifully in its natural environment, reflects a sense of cultural pride and conscious effort to celebrate Eastern aesthetic and traditions within the framework of English literature. Ultimately, the lotus serves as a testament to the ability to bridge a Western education with Indian roots. It suggests the artistic beauty and national pride can coexist through the thoughtful synthesis of diverse cultural influences. Next theme is the quest for perfection. Toru Dutt's The Lotus is a patriarchal sonnet that explores the quest for perfection, cultural synthesis, and ultimate transcendence of beauty. Through a mythical dialogue between love and Flora, Dutt addresses the long standing rivalry between the rose and the lily, which are presented as symbols of differing Western and Eastern ideals. The quest is initiated by love, who desires a flower that is the queenliest love, argues that